Humans spend millions of dollars launching satellites and laying fiber optic cables just to understand each other, only to constantly interrupt one another in Zoom meetings. The result? Still misunderstanding, still absolute chaos. Goblin Corp, however, threw this inefficiency in the trash exactly 100 million years ago. Ants don't talk, kids. They don't send DMs to each other. They use the world as one massive big data pool, and they do it without ever taking a break. An ant's antenna is the world's most advanced biological modem. Their communication tool is those famous scent trails we call pheromones. But make no mistake, if you think this is just a simple smell, resign from the tech world immediately. This isn't a smell, it's a URL, an IP address, even a software update. Imagine the process. A single ant goes out to explore and accidentally finds a giant cookie. At that moment, that ant turns into a content creator. On its way back home, it rubs its belly against the ground to leave a pheromone trail. This trail says, "Click this link, there's a reward at the end." But it doesn't just mean food is there, no. The intensity of the trail codes how large the food is and how fresh it is. In other words, the ant actually sends an Excel spreadsheet back to the nest. Row 1, column A, 500 grams of sugar, 95% freshness rate. And the system doesn't need a central server to process this data, because every single worker is a living processor reading that data. This is where the real logic kicks in. The positive feedback loop. If an ant follows the trail and finds the food, it walks over that trail once more on its way back and refreshes the scent. More ants mean more scent. More scent means more ants. This is exactly the same as Google's search algorithm. The more a link is clicked, the higher it ranks in the search. This is how ants solve the shortest path algorithm in seconds. They don't know geometry, they don't know trigonometry, but by looking at the intensity of the scent, they plot the most efficient logistics route in the universe. The Waze app? It wouldn't even qualify as an intern next to an ant. But every software has its glitch. Sometimes the algorithm eats itself. What we call the death spiral is the most tragic blue screen error nature has ever seen. Sometimes a group of ants gets trapped in a circle created by their own pheromone trails. The scent is so strong that logic shuts down. They keep circling in that ring until thousands of workers die of exhaustion from following their own tails. There is no error in the code, but the data has entered an infinite loop. At Goblin Corp, there is no individual intelligence, only the system. And sometimes the system executes its most loyal employees in an infinite loop. Brutal? Yes. Logical? Absolutely. Because the system's error is cleaned up by the system itself. Now that we have decoded the data network, let's talk about expansion. Every successful company hates its competitors, but unlike humans who fight for market share with discounts and ads, Goblin Corp settles the score by burning down the rival headquarters. For certain ant species, life isn't a 9-to-5 shift. It is a never-ending hostile takeover. Meet the most elite units in nature, the Amazon ants, also known as Polyergus. These guys act like high-level executives who are so specialized they can't even feed themselves or take care of their own children. Their jaws aren't designed for work. They are built for one thing and one thing only: removing heads. So how does such a helpless army survive? The answer is simple: outsourcing. When an attack begins, don't expect the epic battlefield scenes you see in movies. Amazon ants are much smarter than that. As they approach the target colony, they launch what we call a chemical propaganda attack. This is the most effective biological cyber attack ever seen. They release a specific pheromone that causes the rival workers to panic, attack each other, and abandon their security posts. The system is hacked. With the firewall down, the Amazons storm the nest. Their target isn't to kill the queen or steal the food. They are after something far more valuable: future human resources. They kidnap the larvae and pupae, the unborn ants of the rival colony. This isn't just a kidnapping, it is the ultimate seizure of trained labor assets. The most chilling part happens next. When these kidnapped larvae finally wake up in the new nest, they have no idea they belong to a different species. They accept the first pheromone trail they smell as their home. They spend the rest of their lives cleaning the nest and feeding the very masters who destroyed their families. In biology, this is called Dulosis. But in Goblin logic, we call it the perfect internship program. There are no training costs, no insurance, and zero risk of a strike. A worker who doesn't even know they are a slave is the most efficient employee in the world. While the Amazon ants focus purely on war, these brainwashed workers handle everything else. You might say this is cruel, but remember, in nature, ethics don't exist. Only balance sheets do. If a colony can gain more labor through war than it can produce itself, that colony is a success. At Goblin Corp, empathy is just a waste of energy. If you can't beat the competition, force them to work for you. That is the true logic of total war.